Welcome everyone to the CANDU Sports Show. We are super excited to get this recording started October 6th. Your host Scott Blair and
Donray Bennett. Welcome, welcome. Great time of year. All things are flowing, all sports are engaged.
everything's up and
Um,
running. Yeah, it's good.
yeah, absolutely. So what we kicking it off with?
Let's kick off with the big upset that everyone's probably waking up to, or hopefully y'all saw last night before you went to bed, and that's Vanderbilt. But there's a lot going on in college football, but we'll put the spotlight real quick on Vandy with the huge upset over Alabama. So let's start there. What you got? Or anything
Well,
really college football related, but
I mean, I can't call. I know this day and age, I think these types of upsets will become a little more frequent,
fair.
um, considering what NIL is doing and the fluidity at which students are being transient nature, I should say, at which they're switching schools regularly. Um, Shout out to them. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was real or it was AI generated, but I saw that someone posted something where they played the Nick Saban
Oh,
comment on the
yeah.
scoreboard
Yeah.
that, the easiest place to play is Vandy. I don't know if that's true or not,
I
but
think it is. I think it is.
they really played that. That's awesome,
Yeah.
then. Good for them. I mean, it's at the 12 team playoff. It's not like it does anything to Alabama's title hopes at all. Um, if anything, it infuses the Vanderbilt nation and whatnot. So good for them. Happy for
Tip of
them.
the cap.
Surprising, of course, but and I think it'll become less and less of a big deal going forward. But I'm excited. I love to see David beat Goliath. And what are your thoughts?
Well, we had a lot of them because they lost. Tennessee lost. Missouri lost. Michigan
That's right.
lost. USC lost. I
Yeah.
know. I think Louisville lost, which I know is kind of the tail end of the top 25. Um, and so on the flip side of this is Georgia. Like in a hot second, Georgia's probably going to be the one, the number one team in the country real quick. So
Yeah, I mean the USC loss and the Michigan loss aren't. I mean, I'm a big Michigan fan, and when they played each other, that was a great game. But those two teams are, you know, they're not as good as their ranking
right.
suggests. As a Michigan fan, I can say that honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
they're there because they had to get the respect coming off a championship. But I think as we get into the season, we're looking at probably a good 4 or 5 loss team anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but regardless, like you said, the upsets. There's the parity in football is finally going to probably mirror the parity of basketball as we get more and more um, into the NIL era, and then we have the 12 team college football playoff. I don't know that teams are going to push to the extent that they would have before to not lose anything or any game. I think if
Yeah, that's
someone's
fair.
nursing a hamstring, I'm not going to run that risk because one loss or two losses are not going to knock me off of the path of playoff. And once I get in there, I have a chance. So, not to take anything away from all the upsets this week, but there's things I think that are more pertinent to focus on. I think your Syracuse Orangemen, as you called before the season started, continue to be impressive
Big win.
and notch wins. And there's 3 teams for me that, and this is going off script a little bit. There's three
No,
teams
let's
for
go.
me that bring a smile and make me intrigued. Syracuse because of you calling them and me thinking that was the most far-fetched idea ever. 2 is Indiana because
Yeah.
that brother, when he said in that interview,
They're going to be
I
top
win,
20 after this week. Yeah.
right? But he said, I win, Google me. And
Yeah.
had everyone Googling him and seeing his background. And that's what he does is win. Kudos to Indiana program. And then JMU, James Madison, because
Yeah.
what
Go
folks don't
Dukes.
realize
Go
about
Dukes.
Coach Chesney is he also wins everywhere he's been.
Yes,
And
he
him
does.
replacing a winner like that, in my mind at first, I was like, okay, I wasn't too surprised because he's inheriting a winning team. But then coming to find out the amount of transfers that left JMU to go to Indiana, so he was dealing with, you know,
Brand new roster.
brand new roster and still putting up the points he's doing. Look, those 3 teams, shout out to all 3 of them. The stalwarts, the Alabamas, the Georgias, good for you. But there's something about coaching. I love football because coaching matters, in my opinion, the most. And I love when coaches like that do what they do. I mean that's it's just an impressive run. What
Truth.
say you?
And listen, all 3 of those teams are connected because Coach Chesney was a finalist for the Syracuse position. So all of them are connected, which is wild. Nothing more to add other than, again, just to highlight two top 10 upsets. In fact, three: Alabama, Missouri, and Tennessee, right? That's huge. So that's really going to shake up the top 10 going forward. And I've got an eye on Ole Miss. I'm just curious. I know they lost recently, but I think Lane Kiffin's got a little something going on there. I'm interested in him just because he seems to be kind of quirky. And I'm just kind of interested
Right.
in his you know his resurgence right after coaching with Coach Saban. And I am curious about Penn State. Sometimes when I put on the glasses, people tell me that I look like a particular person on the sidelines at Penn State, but also living here in this state, I kind of have a mixed Penn State Syracuse allegiance, if you will. And we'll see. They're sitting there 5-0. UCLA isn't the UCLA of Cade McNown, but they're still a respectful program, although their record doesn't look like it. So we'll see. There's a whole lot more season, like you said. It's only the first week of October. So
Absolutely.
speaking of October, let's get to America's pastime that
Uh,
owns the month of October. Let's get to baseball. Let's get to
well,
baseball. So what you
yeah.
thinking, right? I know last night was tough with the Phillies and the Mets. I'm conflicted. Growing up, I loved watching Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden, and I don't mind cheering for the local squad here with the Phillies. So that's a tough one. We were at a local restaurant watching some of it, and people cussing left and right, which is hilarious. Of course, I'm a Yankee fan, so I'm glad that they came back. That was a really good game. Kansas City, much respect. I think that's going to be a long series. That might go 4 or 5. But what you got?
Well, yeah, I'll start with my Phils and the implosion. To be honest, I didn't want to say it out loud. I didn't want to put it in the atmosphere, but in the universe. But when your ace is dealing and giving up one hit, but you only have two, like everything was pointing towards that ending. Everything. When you can't pile on after the first run and you're going against a bullpen game, even though it's an actual starter, it's still a bullpen game. You I just can't say I was surprised. I was mad, I was irritated, of course, but can't surprise. I also understand Wheeler's got to come out. Um, I long for the 90s or 80s at least
Mm,
of him not coming out. That's the type of
yeah,
baseball I prefer, but I also understand that one, I'm not an expert, and two, you got to do with if Wheeler comes out and gives up a run, the whole world is, at Thompson's throat. So he's got to come out. I get
yeah,
it.
that's fair.
But that's just it hurt. As for the other games, um, you know, their bats, a lot of people want to say, oh, we sit around, get cold bats. And it's kind of true, but the other home teams did what they needed to do.
Yeah,
You know, LA, Yanks, like you said, came back, and of course the Guardians right out the gate, 5 runs in the first. So
yeah,
um, I think all four series will go 4 or 5, in my opinion. I don't think there'll be a sweep in any series. Not that that's saying much, but I just don't see it. Um, these series are all good matchups.
yeah.
The Tigers are playing on a salary, a team salary that I could afford it apparently. Um, but they got that fight, and
Yeah,
and
they
when
do.
you hit that when you're warming up, when you hit that roll, you look at Arizona Diamondbacks last year, the Phils the year before that. All you got to do is be heated up, and then you can make a run. So I think all four go 4 or 5. Um, and of course, I'm pulling for the Phils.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Oh, it looks good. I mean, if I personally, of course, got the allegiance for the Yankees as well. It would be amazing for the Yankees to get the World Series and, quite frankly, play any of the teams in the National League, but in particular the Phillies and the Dodgers. It would be fun to revisit 2009 and probably the greatest rivalry in World Series history, the Dodgers and the Yankees, and that hasn't happened in a while. So we'll see. And we got Yankees Royals, which is a cool rivalry too. And like you said, last night Yankees Royals game was one example. 9 relievers were used in the game. Just unbelievable compared to what you and I are used to, where, yeah, your starter goes 8, 9 innings. Sometimes you don't even use an amazing closer just because you want your pitcher to go the full trip. So
Yeah,
here we are. Let's
yeah.
see. Let's see. I agree with you. I think all these series, with the exception of Cleveland, I could see Cleveland. They got some juice. They might be able to make it a sweep, but I doubt it. So we'll see. Oh, we'll see. So what do we got next?
So, well, I mean, we can't. We're in the final two for final in the conference
Ah,
final. Let me get this right. The semifinals
yeah.
of the WNBA at this point. I mean, let's talk about it. The fact is, you got your four best teams
Yes, without a
remaining.
doubt.
You got your champions fighting their way out of a corner, out the
Rudy,
gate.
never underestimate the heart of a champion. Rudy
All right.
Tomjanovich.
So what do you think? What do you see happening? I mean, they're both at 2-1 now. Um, what do you call?
Since we're talking ball, really quick, I'm just going to slide a quick shout out. Shout out to Tyler Kuhn. Had a chance to go visit SUNY ESF last week. Got one
Hall
of
of
my
Fame.
guys. So with myself and him and two of my previous players, the four of us are now inductees in the college's Hall of Fame. So shout out to Tyler. It was
Round of applause for
great to
that.
see you and your family. Welcome to the hall. But yeah, yeah, right. So let's talk about the WNBA. Uh, we don't have enough time. I am if we were just talking about the four teams, cool. I'm also, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about the noise from Christine Brennan.
Oh
There's
God.
right, there's so much to talk about. I want to give, if you want to explore this more, the person who navigated this, I think the best is Sarah Spain. Please check out the interview that she actually had with Christine Brennan just a couple of days ago. Christine Brennan, you got to understand the context of the room. Well, I just want to ask the questions and the people don't like it too bad. That's not the way this works. Come on, you've got to know more to do better. So I just want to kind of lodge that here on the side because it's just not right, and not having a sense of what's going on with our players in the league. Um, yeah, that's a whole segment in and of itself. So we'll just leave that over there. I'm curious. My daughter, we're a Liberty House, but my daughter loves Brianna Stewart, right? So I hope that they pull this out, but the coach and me, as we just said, I can't underestimate the Aces in the heart of a champion, and I think they have the better coach. I think they have the better roster. They should win. I know it's never happened in WNBA history. I think they should win. Um, However, the Liberty just seem to have a thing going this year. So if they win tonight, they have to win tonight. Because if they don't, I think the Aces win in New York, game five. On the other side, I just love Nafisa Collier. I love the way she plays. Shout out to Minnesota. So I'm cheering for them. I just really like the way she plays. She won, I think, league defensive player of the year a couple days ago. I will just say though, the league as a whole, y'all got to clean up your officiating. Your officiating is atrocious. It's just bad. It's bad. I don't. It's bad. Like there's stuff. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then two, it's you got to clean up the game. Players need more space. The game is way too physical, way too physical. And I'm not saying this in any sort of patriarchal thing. I think we talked about this in our last episode, right? This looks like 1980s Celtics, Pistons, Bulls. Everyone's just beating each other up. It's like we need to get more into the late 90s, maybe late 2000s, because we want to get past the second iteration of the Detroit Pistons with Ben Wallace. So that's what I got. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I always like it would be boring if Vegas just dog walked through it and took a third title. So this is good for the WNBA, having the blood, having them tested and being tested by a major market and a major market team with big
Mhm.
names. So as it's working its way out, it's solid. Um, I genuinely don't have a dog in this. I
That's
like.
fair. That's fair.
I mean, I'm a big Becky fan. I mean,
Yeah,
she's a coach
absolutely.
that could be coaching in the NBA.
Should
I mean,
be
she
coaching in the
coached,
NBA. She
right?
should be.
And she should be, and I think she will if she chooses to. I think it'll be her choice, and I think she will eventually. Um, so I'm just watching as a true fan, just see what happens. I'm with you. The officiating makes it hard to digest. The game has very little continuous good flow. And when it gets if there's any type of run, the other team can just clothesline someone and
Seems
it
that way
gets
sometimes. Yeah.
it seems you're right. I mean, I am probably overstating it, but I'm with you. It's hard to you'd rather one nice digestible product. But overall, I'm watching as a fan. Um, I don't know that I'm pulling for I mean, going into it, I was kind of favoring Indiana and Vegas, but I like to see anyone. It'd be cool for Connecticut to. There's something about
They are Detroit Pistons-esque the way they play defensively, which is not a bad.
exactly
We like defense, right? They're
right,
so aggressive.
but that's I
Oh,
like that.
shout out to Alyssa
I just want to be
Thomas, Central
controlled.
Dolphins finest. She comes out of Harrisburg, so shout out
Hey,
to Alyssa Thomas. Yeah,
a little local legend.
yeah,
But so I kind of like that team approach where I like I like watching Connecticut play, even though it kind of goes against what I just stated, because I appreciate aggressiveness and I
yeah,
appreciate defense. It's not their fault that they're allowed to get away with what they get away with. Like you play, you push the line, and that's what they're
yeah.
doing. So
Totally
my
fine.
issue isn't with them or their style. It's with the officiating and WNBA's allowance of their
Overall,
style. But as long
yeah,
as it's allowed, you do it. And in my opinion, they do it the best.
yes,
So that's what I like.
they do.
If you're talking about style, what I would love to coach or be a part of it would be like that
Yeah.
Connecticut Sun away approach. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm getting this is a good transition to our next topic, but I'm getting goosebumps as we're just kind of talking about the physicality piece, right? We're two guys who we like the I formation, right? We like having the Mike
Yes.
Allstott there in the back, so we get that, right? We love all that, but yeah, just a little bit more freedom of movement. I think the game would be greatly aided
Yeah,
by that. So,
absolutely. Well, before we transition, I also want to, send the best to our favorite Miss Mule who
oh yeah, truth, Nika Mule, yeah,
she tore her ACL. Is that
tear
what it was?
ACL, yeah, that was awful to see that. Just
Yeah.
prayers up to
So
her that the rehab
yeah,
goes quick.
she's a can-do favorite.
Yeah, she
So
is. Oh,
shout out to her.
the best example of defense against Caitlin Clark in the
Caitlin Clark.
last 6 months, right? Was
Yep.
her in the Final Four. So let's move to the NFL as kind of our last topic to finish up the day. I know we got a lot. I'm just going to start with Jaden Daniels. Amazing. Of course, as a Bears fan, I'm sitting here like, we could have had Jaden Daniels. We could have had Cliff Kingsbury. We picked Shane Waldron, who was the offensive coordinator from the Seattle Seahawks. Really? But last game was a good game for Caleb. Let's run the ball. DeAndre Swift looked good. I know that was good. Philadelphia Eagles, DeAndre Swift got the ball around, moved the ball around a little bit, let the defense do its thing. If they can do that, they're gonna be a problem in the NFC. If that's the way they play, that's Bears football, quite frankly. I'd like us to have a 4,000-yard passer someday, like everybody else has. But if that's what we have to do, 160 yards passing, no turnovers, two or three touchdowns, and the defense just shows up cool. I'm really, really, really liking the way that Washington's playing though. And you want to talk about kind of out of nowhere? I thought their defense was kind of bare after all the trades last year. I'm really intrigued on what they got going on there. Really good coaching staff. So that's my quick 2 cents. Just really interested in what they got going on.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a hater. I'm not as enamored by Jaden Daniels as the rest of the country. What I do like is he doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
But we've sat through, a rookie season of RG3 who tore up the league, and if not for getting injured, would have probably went deeper into the playoffs, and then to come back and, you know, get exposed and da 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 da. My thing with I just don't. I hate that rookies start and then are expected to perform. I think
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and there's no better show of when you look at your Sam Darnolds of the world who are,
yeah,
lighting it up and even it kills me that the idea is that a rookie is expected to perform. When you look at the history and you look at the Aaron Rodgers of the world who sat forever, come out and then they do well. It's
Patrick
silly,
Mahomes,
it's
same
dumb.
thing. He
Yeah,
sat for a year behind Alex Smith.
and we've had this conversation before, right? There's more to just learning on the field, it's learning off the field and everything else that comes along with it. It's just a lot to ask of someone. Now, what I will say is in the NIL age, I think these quarterbacks will come in better prepared. But I just not a fan of it. So I'm reserving any. I'm not going to jump on a Jaden Daniels fan because on the bandwagon, because what's going to happen is he's going to hit a slide at some point, either later this year or next year,
Yeah,
and then the doubters will come out, and I'll sit there and be like, I'm not going to do all that. What I will say is shout out to Sam Darnold, and the Minnesota Vikings. That is a team that for
Yeah.
sure was written off. Shout out to Kirk Cousins and Atlanta Falcons who continue to play.
509 passing yards. Holy
And
cow.
he did it in the first and second half. It wasn't like he was just playing from behind or whatnot. I mean, there are teams who are seem to be solid in all facets of the game. Those two, Minnesota and Atlanta, who, for all intents and purposes, were kind of, you know, Atlanta drafted a quarterback with their top 10 pick.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for that. That's helped us get Roma
right.
Dunze.
And
So,
Minnesota for that matter,
yeah.
with JJ McCarthy. So um I love to see quarterbacks who I love to see teams like that who are winning because they're a good team, and showing you what can happen when you put together a good team. Most, if not all, I'd say 90% of the quarterbacks who are in the NFL, if put in a great situation, would be successful. I mean, there's
Yeah.
very few that are just bad. I mean, when you look at Jamarcus Russell's, for instance, yeah, if you're not going to study,
Yep.
you're going to be
Yeah.
terrible no matter
Him
where
and
you
Johnny
go.
Manziel, they're outliers.
Manziel, you're
Yeah.
not going to study, yeah. But in terms of those who do what they do, if you have a good team, then you don't have to force a first round pick in there. And you'll
Yep.
find out by year 3 if that guy really is studying anyway. And he would never touch the field.
Exactly.
Manziel should have never hit the field. It's because of the
No.
situation you were in. If you
Yep.
build up the team accordingly, then you can put an Andy Dalton in there and win, a Ryan Fitzpatrick in there and win. You're going to win. And you don't have to put some 20-year-old who hasn't even, made his own dinner once in his life in charge of cooking up a whole, 2-minute drive.
Love it.
Ridiculous.
Love it. Love it. No,
So
listen. I mean, you got to do that. You got to drop the Andy Dalton reference because, yes, if the Bears played him the whole year, Justin Fields is probably chilling, still
he
playing for us. So,
Exactly.
yes.
That's my point exactly. And you picked
Yep.
up on it. If Andy Dalton, who's completely capable,
More than
continues,
capable.
and now if you have a team that's struggling or whatnot, he can navigate them through, still get 6 or 7 wins, but come up on the bottom end. You get a good draft pick, but you get a team that's built up, and Fields gets to learn behind him, learn from his mistakes. And then he comes in year 2 or 3, he's cooking, and you don't have what's happening now. Instead, he's going to go to Pittsburgh and win 1 or 2 or 3 championships out there. You heard it here first. It's so ridiculous that you guys gave up. And then to give up what you give up to draft Caleb
Mm.
Williams to the same exact scenario. I just it's dumb. And that's
Okay.
why,
Okay. Okay. You take us there. I hope, because we talked about this like 8 months ago, right? This will be the third time if it don't go well in the last 8 years where they had a top 10 draft pick, top 15, I guess, with Justin Fields, and they drafted a first round quarterback in the year in which they got a lame duck coach. I hope this works out so Eberflus gets his extension, but the Bears way is what we talked about earlier. Cliff Kingsbury, right? Folks asked him this week in advance, I think, of their game on primetime, right? Why is it going so well with Jaden Daniels? Why? Well, because he's running a system that is close to what Jaden Daniels ran in college so that he's able to have familiarity. Guess who Caleb Williams' offensive coordinator was in college? Cliff Kingsbury. Did the Bears interview him? Yes. Did they hire him? Obviously not. That's the Bears football. So, on that note, what are your closing thoughts, Don Ray?
well, let me on that one last. I don't want to. I really want to move away, but
Go Syracuse Crunch. Hey, go Crunch.
it's so, you know what? I am going to let it go because there's no point in harping on this. It's just the way of the West at this point. But it's so ridiculous. All right.
Wow,
Closing thoughts.
you didn't even talk about the Eagles.
I'm not going to.
That's
Let's not.
impressive.
No, we're not going
All
to.
right.
It's a bye week. Let's all be on bye. Okay, we
Fair.
can revisit them next week and they're whatever's happening there.
Okay, fair.
But
Fair.
I'll just throw it out there.
Next
Yet
week.
again, when you look at the amount of systems that have been over and over and over, the only time Hertz has ever been, not the only, Hertz has been at his
Mm,
best when we had Steichen for what,
yeah.
2 years? Oh my goodness, we had the same offensive coordinator for 2 years and he did well in the
Yeah.
second year. All right. Um,
Closing thoughts. What you got?
Closing thoughts. Let's swing it. I'm going to swing it over to an area that is we've touched on before, but
What you
I'm
got?
just going to leave it at this is the NCAA has dropped the ball for decades. It
Oh,
somehow
I
became in the world of education
I know
became
what you're
a
doing.
for-profit monster. We knew they weren't doing what they needed to do. There was an area. And so what happens? They step aside, NIL comes in full fledged. They don't take control of anything, and now it's out of control. And we've got a situation that's not being monitored, but really the Sluka in UNLV and
Hmm.
Sluka situation, where you have a quarterback that, by tertiary means, I have a pretty good insight into the young man, and you do as well, having
Hmm.
family in John Smith playing at Holy Cross and playing well by all stretch.
Yes,
And
indeed.
Sluka was the quarterback for 3 of those years, and we know him somewhat through other folks to be a good dude and good family.
Yes,
At the end of the day,
definitely.
we just talk about the stuff that no one's disputing. No one's disputing that he was offered 100K. The
That's
the
one.
issue here is on his end, he didn't get it in writing, so that's fair.
Yeah.
But in terms of bad business, UNLV is also, basically skirting it by saying you don't have it in writing and the head coach didn't approve it, so on and so forth.
Yep.
The man
You're
has
right. They weren't saying that it didn't happen or it wasn't
right,
offered, that they
right,
wasn't in writing and that the head coach didn't approve it.
right.
Pay attention to that.
And so I'm not going to jump on Sluka's back for anything.
Mm-mm.
Yes, I'm a fan of team first and win. Da, da, da. This guy has one last year to
Yep.
play college football and make nice money doing so. After that, yeah, he
Yep.
could be a coach, but realistically, he's probably going to be, some desk job doing something for the rest of his life, like the rest of us, looking and watching these young people play
Or coaching.
or coaching. You have one last year to make money doing what you love to do. I'm not mad at him for taking this approach. Go somewhere, even if he only gets 10,000 to play somewhere else. He's getting paid to play and he's not being lied to. So good kudos. Do what you need to do. NCAA, try to make your money. Try to do something right for once in your life, and get a hold of this and make this more of
Yep.
a controlled,
Yeah.
movement. I know schools will be able to pay going forward and da da da. Regardless, make sure there's some sort of context so that schools are very explicit about NIL monies or deals that are in place prior to the school year or whatever the case may be. Get them things in writing. Help support these young people so that they're not forced to go get agents who are going to, muddy it up even more. Yes, there's a place for agents and whatnot. I'm not saying that, but there should be an allowance for a young man who wants to go play for you, and you say, "Great, you want to play here? We'll give you some money." Make sure that there is some sort of something in place to protect all parties, the universities as well, so that this doesn't become rampant. Um, and what happened to him is just unfortunate, and I
Yes.
and I get it. The something in writing is just known, but
That's
it's
huge.
sad. It's sad to see.
There's no reason why they can't live as an aspect of compliance where at the beginning of the season, beginning of the academic semester, it's reported just so that you have a central holding for that information. So you don't end up with this situation, right?
Yep.
And for all the reasons I won't add to it. My closing thoughts, other than again, go vote, is um, coaching matters. So I'm gonna do this. The coaching matters. So when we look across the sports landscape, whether it's professionally or even within your own local community with schools and all these different things, coaching matters. So I'm thinking about this because locally, when you look and you see different programs, it's like sometimes there's this narrative around parents, you need to be supportive of your kids and the coaches, and coaches are doing their thing, and they are, right? And Frank Martin has a really good piece about that.
Yep.
But we need to do a shout out to the administrators of, are you doing your due diligence to make sure that you're selecting the appropriate people to be in a position to do the work? And this also goes to the professional level and just how are we supporting coaches? There's a lot of bad coaching. When we've been speaking quite a bit today about the NFL, I'm thinking about Trevor Lawrence, right? I'm thinking about a lot of quarterbacks who are struggling. I'm looking at the Miami Dolphins. It's like, how can you not find one solution at backup quarterback to be able to have some sort of a functioning offense now that Tua is out? There's so much conversation to be had there about coaching and being able to put players in a position to be successful, which is why we want to give another shout out to Mike Tomlin and being able to do that, not just with Justin Fields, but really with all their players. It's like, I don't care. We don't have to score all these crazy. We're going to put players in a position to be successful. And there's a lot of folks that don't know how to do that. So we want to give shout out to those who can, like the Mike Tomlins. And if you haven't watched it, go YouTube it. His
Yes.
clip about how he looks forward to that challenge of coaching folks up, and that's really what the work is about. So as we look at the end of seasons, the start of seasons, look at the really good coaches. That's why when we talk about the WNBA, you shouldn't be surprised that the 4 teams that are there, of course, they've got fantastic rosters, but they've got really good coaches, right? Really, Sandy Brondello. You look at Coach White with Connecticut. The U.S. Olympic national team coach is running Minnesota, and of course Becky Hammon. Those are 4 outstanding coaches, and that is so important. So we'll just kind of end on that. And yeah, what a great time of year. October has all the sports. Hockey's, of course, starting up. So we're looking forward to next week, and let's see. Then we can talk about the Eagles a little bit more.
All right.
Does that
Sounds
work?
good. Sounds like coaching was the theme, from Signetti to Chesney
Yeah.
to Becky Hammond to your local folks who may or may not be making the best decisions for the young people in, let's
Woo!
say, the Kutztown Area School District, for instance,
Just
and
across the
others.
board. Yeah, it's across
Yeah.
the board.
Yep. Absolutely. So
Peace and love, everyone.
peace and love. Peace.
Until next week. Ohio Dominican in the house.